Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and there's quite a bit to talk about. We have iPhone 17 designs through the whole lineup, we're expecting iPhone Fold, and iOS 18.4 public beta released, and we're expecting another beta soon. This is your weekly Apple News update for the week of February 24th, 2025. Now, Steve Jobs today would have been 70 years old, and Tim Cook sent out a nice little note on X about it, and also this week Steve Jobs was recommended by the governor of California for the American Innovation Coin. That would be made by the U.S. Mint for the state of California, as each state can make their own coin based on an innovator, so it would be great to see that. AirPods Pro 2 today have gained a new feature in the UK. Many people have been waiting for this around the world, and you'll see Apple announced the hearing aid feature is available today with AirPods Pro 2 in the UK. If you're in the UK, make sure your AirPods are up to date. Go into that and you should have the new options for hearing protection, hearing assistance, and more. You can take a hearing test and use them as hearing aids. If you don't have it in your country yet, unfortunately it requires approval by your local health codes, so that's something that the local government has to approve. Apple today also announced that it will invest $500 billion over the next 4 years in the USA into things such as manufacturing plants around the United States and Texas, as well as other facilities in Michigan, Texas, California, Arizona, Nevada, Iowa, Oregon, and North Carolina, and Washington, with manufacturing, AI manufacturing, and much more. So this is something we'll see roll out over the next 4 years. iPhone 16e launches later this week and is another phone that's being manufactured in India and shipped to other countries as well as within India itself. According to the Economic Times, all iPhone 16 models are now being assembled in India as well as other locations. The iPhone 16e also has one less core for the GPU, even though it's using the A18 chipset. A recent benchmark was shown that it actually shows a slightly lower speed as expected, so it will have some effect. Whether or not it affects the overall performance, of course, we'll have to test it out and try out ourselves. And with the launch of the iPhone 16e and its disappointing lack of MagSafe, Apple has confirmed to Macworld that the new C1 modem is not the reason for the lack of the magnets. I suspect this is largely due to the battery inside or just cost cutting in general, but when people tear it down, of course, we may get a better understanding of this reason. It could be for a larger battery, or maybe they're planning to remove it out of the new iPhone 17 Air as well and want to see how people react. Either way, it is something that they've changed, so we'll have to see how it affects usage, even though we'll have lots of cases with MagSafe as well. When it comes to weekly deals this week, well, there's deals with MacBook Air up to $200 off. AirTags, if you want to buy a 4-pack, are down to $69.99, and AirPods 4 are down to $148.99. So I'll link all of those in the description below, along with other deals as well. As far as releases this week, well, iOS 18.3.2 is something we could see since Apple stopped signing iOS 18.3, and we know iOS 18.4 isn't coming out until April. This is according to Apple. So based on that, maybe in the next week or two, we could see iOS 18.3.2. Also this last week, Apple released iOS 18.4 Beta 1. This was to developers, and today they released iOS 18.4 Public Beta 1. However, it is not available for the iPhone 12 series. For some reason, Apple has unsigned that. It looks like all iPhone 12 models are affected, with the 12, 12 mini, 12 Pro, and 12 Pro Max. So unless you were able to get that early on and didn't have any issues with it, it's not available just yet, so we'll probably have to wait until Beta 2 until that's available. And speaking of Beta 2, it could be sometime this week, or like previous betas, it could be next week. It just depends on how quickly Apple plans to roll this out, but they have said April, so I would suspect maybe next week we get Beta 2, but again, we'll have to wait and see. Apple's also working on iOS 18.5, as I've talked about before. That was confirmed by MacRumors. They're seeing it in their analytics, so they're working on that as well. When it comes to this week's leaks and rumors, well, iPhone 17 Air is being worked on, and we recently got an idea of what it could look like according to a leak from John Prosser. It seems the display, though, is not 6.6 inches, but 6.7 inches. So it's a super thin design and is something I'm not sure, depending on how good it is, people will even want. I think it really depends on battery life. Also, the iPhone 17 Pro and 17 Pro Max were leaked again by John Prosser, and those leaks have been backed up by Sonny Dixon, and a leak showing the cases and what the new camera tray design looks like. So we know that it's going to have this camera tray design where we have our LiDAR sensor and our flash, but it's seemingly odd that they've offset the LiDAR from the lenses and other things. But either way, it's a new design, and it looks like that's what it's going to look like when it comes out in September. A more recent rumor suggests again that the frame will be made of aluminum instead of titanium, but in a unibody structure, similar to what we had with the iPhone 5. This is an all-unibody structure with glass inserts at the top and bottom, and then just the frame clicked into the front. So we had that with the 5 and 5S, along with the iPhone 6 and 7 series, and then Apple sort of abandoned it until we got back to what we have now. But again, now we have glass on the back and front. We could have aluminum on the back again, which would make it more durable. I think a lot of people would appreciate that, but also maybe make it easier to change the screen out of, change the battery. We don't really know yet, but it looks like it's going to be a unibody construction. Now, Apple's upcoming iPhone 17 model will not only benefit from their all-new C1 modem, but also will benefit from Apple's very first Wi-Fi chipset, according to Ming Chi Kuo. This could result in a much better Wi-Fi experience, since we've had quite a few drops with the current one, and maybe better power consumption and connectivity overall. Apple's really good at making their own chips. We've seen that with Apple Silicon, so with them making their own chip, we could see better connectivity, not just in the cellular with C1, but also with the Wi-Fi. Maybe it will be called W1 or something along those lines. But either way, we'll have to wait and see, but it is expected for the iPhone 7. Many have been wanting Apple to add reverse wireless charging as well for a long time, and it looks like Apple is testing this according to Instant Digital on Weibo. The feature is being tested on all iPhone 17 models and would allow something to reverse wireless charge up to 7.5 watts. So this is something we've seen on other devices. There's no reason they couldn't do it. It's just whether or not they want to. But we could reverse wireless charge things such as AirPods. Also, iPhone 17 Pro is said to charge up to 35 watts, according to analyst Jeff Poo. This actually would be on all iPhone 17 models, but would allow it to charge higher than what it can currently charge at, which is about 28 to 29 watts. One other thing to note is that the iPhone 17 model, not the 17 Air or 17 Pro models, may just keep the same sort of camera design and not have the new camera tray. So at this point, it looks like we could have a similar design with the iPhone 16 to the iPhone 17, but the Pros and the Air would have an all-new design. You can also see this from a recent CAD posting by Majin Buu on X. So that's been shown off. It looks like they've got the lineup sort of locked down. Of course, it could change as they get closer to manufacturing, but it looks like this is what they could look like next year. Now, we know Apple's been working on a folding iPhone for some time, and this week, Digital Chat Station on Weibo has shared specifics about the display sizes. According to the leaker, the outside display is 5.49 inches, which seems smaller than I would have expected, where the internal display is 7.74 inches, according to him. It's supposedly at a very different aspect ratio than other folding phones as well. So whether or not it's like the iPad mini or something completely new, we don't know, but they also said to expect the foldable phone to launch next year. Also, Mark Gurman this week said in his Power On newsletter that the folding iPhone is coming in 2026, just like the previous leaker, along with a new mysterious design as well that folds. So that could be the iPad that folds or a MacBook. Now, when it comes to MacBook, Apple's now getting ready to launch the new M4 MacBook Air. We've had the M2 for a while, the M3, and now the M4 is something we're waiting for. So the M4 MacBook Air is said to launch as soon as March. Apple's ramping up for that, and supplies are getting low in the store. So we don't expect much of a difference, but basically a simple update to the overall chipset, and that's about it. MacBook Pro is expected this year to update to M5, and that will be the first time in a while that it would update before the iPad Pro. The iPad Pro I don't think really needs an update at this point. We need maybe more from the operating system, but using an iPad Pro is a great experience. It never feels slow, and it just feels like the operating system could do a little bit more. So at this point, it makes sense, update the MacBooks first and then the iPad. A recent leak from Kosutami this week has said that the next AirTag is expected in May or June. Apple would update the AirTag with a new chipset that allows for better tracking at distance and maybe even better battery life. So in here we have a replaceable battery, which is great, but sometimes it seems like it needs to be replaced quite often. So to have that updated, maybe it would be better as far as waterproofing or durability, but we could see that in a couple months. And so that's everything so far to expect this week. Of course, quite a few updates are expected with iOS 18.4, iOS 18.5 bringing a new version of Siri hopefully, and then iOS 19 in June at WWDC. Typically, Apple launches the next versions of operating systems in beta early in June, and we could see those invites as soon as March. But either way, or at least the announcement and then invites later on. But we could see that on June 2nd or the 9th, most likely the 9th, and then of course they'll release them to the public in September. So if they continue to do that every year, we'll see iOS 19 and maybe get some surprises as we haven't heard much about it. But that's everything so far. I'm looking forward to seeing what Apple has with the iPhone 17s, as it looks like we could get some changes this year. But let me know what you're looking most forward to in the comments below. I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do, and if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.